show you how I make these really cute 3x3-inch floral mini note cards. Okay, I'm going to start off by cutting down my cardstock. So I've got this Pen and Gear cardstock and it's 110 weight. I always pull out a couple sheets at a time because my cutter here will do 2 pretty well. Sometimes it'll do 3 well, but it gets more than that and then it wants to kind of rip it. So I start out by cutting off this 8.5 by 11 at, I'll cut off 2.5 inches first. And then I'll turn it. And then I go to my 3. Square it up here. So then I've got a 3 by 6 piece here that I fold over. And then I can get a total of 6 out of each 2 sheets. So 3 out of one sheet and then 3 out of the other, so I'll get 6 total. I'll do my last piece here. So I've got those, and then I always have these 2 other little sheets left over, and I use these for a lot of other tags and things. Okay, so now that I've got my little pile of 3 by 6 here, I'm going to take these and I'm going to fold each one over. So then I'm going to be left with a 3 by 3. So I just match up my edges evenly. And then I'll use my bone folder and just fold that over. So then I'll go through and do this many times until I get me a nice big pile. And then I'm ready to do the next step. So now I've got these pretty papers and they're all floral, some beautiful patterns here. And these are just some scrap ends that I have. So that's what makes this so nice to be able to use these mini cards, is to be able to use up some scrap pieces. And then I've also got over here the nice 6 by 6 pieces. So then when I cut them, I'm going to end up being able to get 4 note cards out of each sheet. So I'll start with these, and I usually on this too will do 2 sheets at a time just to make it go quicker. And I brought my other trimmer over here. I seem to like it better for this. And I've actually drawn on here a mark because it's easier for me to see than trying to line up here. But it's at 2 7/8 inch, so then it's just going to come in and be just a little bit shorter for these cards. So it'll have a little bit of white edge all the way around if I cut it at 2 7/8. And of course you can go a little bit smaller than that if you want more of a white border. But I just come over and line it up on my line, and I make so many of these that I do this line and it just makes it go a lot quicker and easier for me. So now I'm cutting these down, and they're going to be 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. And I'll go through, and I usually like to do all 4 at a time, but for the purpose of this video, we're just going to do a couple here. So I've got those, and then I'm going to take some of these. Now the cardstock ones, usually on my trimmer, I'll just go in and do the cardstock pieces one at a time. So I'll just go through and cut these all down to 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. And then of course, because we're scrapbookers, we save all the little pieces, right? And we'll use them for tags or little journal spots. This is a pretty pattern I've got here, and I think this one's already cut. Yeah, this one's already at 2 7/8, so I'm just going to go on this end. And I'll just go ahead and use the rest of this little sheet as far out as it'll let me. And then a lot of times when I'm looking at my flower pattern, I'm going to show you on this one. So see how this has got the prettier side and this has just kind of got a little stem over there. I'll be sure as I cut this down that I cut off the side that's not quite as pretty. Oops, and this has got a little bit of a red edge, ripped edge, where it came off of the pad of paper. So I'm just going to trim that off real quick first. Okay, I'll turn it around. Just some little tips We've got that. So I'm going to go along and I'm going to cut all these out, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Now I've got a bunch of these pretty patterns cut up, so we're going to go ahead and assemble these cards together. I've got my blanks there, and I have my glue paper, and then I've just got a stick glue that I'm going to use here. So these go pretty quick. Okay, got these ready to go. I'm going to flip this over, and I like to go ahead and be pretty generous with my glue. Go all the way around the outside edges, and then some in the middle. I know some people like to make these with the tape runners, but I prefer just using the glue because otherwise I'm going to go through a lot of tape runners. So there's one. I just try to make sure when I line it up that the whole edges is even around there, so you can kind of see that. And then because a lot of this is paper, I like to run it through my finger on both sides, because as it's gluing, it's going to make it end up being flat. Otherwise, after it finishes gluing, the edges sometimes want to go up in the air. So I have realized if I kind of make this arch just a little bit on each side with my fingers and then let it dry flat, that it will dry correct. So I'll just do a couple more here. These just make the prettiest, I think. The florals make the prettiest cards. I like to use these when I'm writing a thank you to my Etsy customers. And I have a lot of people that sell on Etsy that buy them from me to write thank you to their customers. I also use them for eBay and Mercari because I sell some things on there. Once again, a little run through the fingers there. Let's see, we've got that one. Let's grab another one. That's got a pretty pattern. Lots of pretty patterns. So I generally, let's see, let me flip this upside down. I like to have the note card go open like that, but of course you can glue your pattern on where you can have it this way and it could be set like that, like a table tent kind of, or this is the way I usually do mine. So when I open them up, then I'll write on this side. But of course, little note cards, you can do them however you like. So we'll go around the edge again. And I like using the purple glue because it dries clear, but then I can see, let's see, I can see where the glue is and if I've hit it or not. So just gonna line that up there, kind of have, whoops, see how that one I've got the edge a little bit too far down, so I'm just gonna pull that up a little. And I think that looks pretty good. Once again, run it through my fingers. Okay, so I'm gonna work on this pile and I will be back in just a little bit. And I'll show you how I make the envelopes. Okay, I've got a big pile of these that are done. And as I finish these, I like to throw them into a little container here that just kind of holds them for me till I need them. But I'm going to go ahead and show you next how I make the envelopes. So I'm going to pull my trimmer back over here. We'll zoom out just a little bit so you can see better. Okay, for this I'm just using the Pen and Gear copy paper. Bring it into frame a little bit, and it's just a 20-pound weight, and it's got a 92 bright, so it seems to be about the most economical for me. And for this I just pull out 2 or 3 sheets. I think this might be 3, and I'm going to cut these to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. So once again, I've already got this marked on my trimmer just so it's easier, all the way up and down, to just line it right up. And then I'll use one of these bottom ones here. Oops, I'm not in the frame. I'll use one of these bottom ones to line it up on down through here. So that's cut. And then I can get 2 envelopes out of each piece of paper. And then a lot of time when I print my labels on Etsy, when I sell something, I'll print the labels and it only prints on half of a sheet. So then I've got this section left over from those, and that saves a little bit of kind of redo the paper. Get to use and recycle it again. So that makes it nice. I don't like waste. So cut that down to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. And this is where I end up with my little glue sheets that I have left over. So we've got those. Let me move this out of the way. I'm going to I'll bring in my envelope maker. And this is just an envelope punch board by We Are Memory Keepers. And for this one, when I make the envelopes, I can do 2 at a time on this one as well. Bring it down a little closer. So for these, I line this up at 2 5/8. And I've put a little mark on there just to make it quick and easy for me, since that's the size I almost always make with these. And you give a punch. And then there's a little score line here, so I'll run that up through there. And then I turn, so I don't pay any more attention to this over here. But now there's this little line that comes out, and I'm going to line it up with my line, which still ends up being at the 2 5/8 again. But that's what you want to watch when you use these punch boards, is that you line it up even on that line. Punch and score and punch and score. But because this is square, it should end up every time over there, unless I've cut my paper a little wonky. Okay, next I got a couple little pieces there. Back up so you can see. Okay, I'm going to fold in each little section. Just work my way around. And then I'm just going to fold one end over the other, but then I've got 2 of these. That I do it once makes it a little quicker. I'll bring my glue sheet over, and I kind of use the tip corner here. And I'll glue that down. Of course, again, you can use a tape runner for this, but I like my glue. And I'll just... My camera battery just died, so I'm going to try to pick up where I just left off. And I think I was gluing this together, so we'll just kind of start from there and go on. So I glued the very tip of that, fold it over, straighten each edge, and then I put some glue along just the tips of both sides of these. And then I'm going to fold that straight up. Give it nice and smooth all the way around. And then to seal these down here, when you fold it over, of course, up here in the top corner I have these mounting squares. I think Aleene's also makes some, and I think I just got these on Amazon. Let me pull it up here where you can see. But here's the side of them, and they're just double-sided little squares. So I'm going to pull that off. And it's going to go up in this top corner here. So whenever I'm ready to use it, I'll just peel that off and it'll have a sticky edge. But I'm not ready to use it, so let me grab a few of these cards out here and I'll show you how this fits in here. The card itself is 3 inch by 3 inch, and then the envelope is 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. So it fits in there perfectly, and then of course you just undo that, flip it over, and it's ready to go. So I think these just make the cutest little cards. I use these in my Etsy shop all the time for customers to write a little thank you note for whatever they purchase. And then I've had lots of people get these for like at baby showers or wedding showers to write well wishes. People use these to put on their gift bags or their packaging for after you wrap up a birthday present. Okay, I think that was all I was wanting to show you today. I'll end with putting up some pictures of some of these I've made previously so you can get an idea of what some other ones I've made look like. So I will do that and I'll say goodbye from here. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.